And now, without further ado, my exclusive with Dan Rather. It is such a pleasure to have you here today.
Great pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to be in the Valley.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that comment. I'll tell you, Dan, we miss you. We miss you on the nightly news. We miss seeing you. We miss your passion. We miss your courage. We miss your dedication, how you go after an interview with all your heart and all your soul. What do you miss about being on the television every day?
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment. I'm unworthy of that, but I am very much appreciative of it. Well, you know, it's hard to say. Basically, what you're looking at with me, Patty, is a reporter, a basic reporter who got lucky. Very, very lucky. And I never think of things in terms of accomplishments. Widely believed it may be, but true it is not. What I'm about is the story. It's always the story. That's the thing that matters. And, you know, I can look back on my career and see times that I was changed as a person and as a pro by what I was covering. And somebody else might see that as an accomplishment, but I see it part as a personal growth. I'll give you an example. That when I first came to work at CBS News in 1962, my first assignment, my first major assignment, was to cover the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Right.
And what was then the beginning of the civil rights movement. It had taken traction, but it hadn't reached its peak. I grew up in a segregated society in Texas. Of my youth, it was segregated. It wasn't Alabama, Mississippi, but it was definitely a segregated society. And covering Dr. King, you know, my job was to be up close and personal with him day in and day out, and file stories each day. It changed me as a person. So when you talk about accomplishment, that's the context. That kind of thing is the context in which I see it. Well,
you know, that's the way I view life too. I like to believe that it's important to keep your ego in check. You can't believe everything that you read. And for myself, I believe I've been very blessed in life, that I'm mission-driven, and the opportunities I'm given, I do learn from as well. You were saying that there were a couple of things that did change your life. Could you mention one of them that did?
Well, that changed my life, covering Dr. King and the civil rights movement. Being in Dallas when President Kennedy was assassinated.
I'm sure of that.
What we call the 4 dark days in Dallas. Tragic period. An absolute hammer to the national heart. Never to be forgotten. That was a life-changing experience for me. Being in the green jungle of hell that was Vietnam and seeing our men and women in uniform, how dedicated they were, how much they sacrificed. Listen, someone may want to argue they went through the wrong war, in the wrong place, at the wrong time, but I was always acutely aware that they went there for the right reason, which was they loved their country, and we sent them there. And that was also life-changing and career-changing for me.
And all the men and women who are fighting right now in Iraq, as much as we and Afghanistan, as much as the country wants, wants the war to end, they're there for us. They're there for us. They're dedicated to us.
Well, that's such an important thing, and I sometimes think that all of us, and I do not accept myself from this, you know, we go about our daily lives and we tend to forget what life is for them. And once again, for anybody who wants to argue, and I understand it and am empathetic with it, that listen, we never should have gone to war. The war's been conducted atrociously, the strategies, all of that. We have to set that aside when it comes to these young men and women who are in uniform, in harm's way, and their families. The price these families are paying is unbelievably high. And in the nature of my work, I mean this in no self-serving way, that since the war started, I've been in Iraq 8 or 9 times, been to Afghanistan 4 or 5 times. And you can't be there and not be constantly humbled by how much they sacrifice and how little all of us are sacrificing.
We've gotten several emails where you see them sleeping in the street, or you see something where they haven't had a home-cooked meal, or they can't see their families, and we complain and we moan and groan. But you know, God bless them for that. You've interviewed so many unbelievable people, everyone from President Eisenhower to Saddam Hussein to all other great presidents. Has there been one interview that's touched you more than another?
I can't say any one has been, because I emphasize again that I've been very lucky and mightily blessed. Certainly the interviews with Saddam Hussein, I interviewed him just after the first Gulf War started, just not many days after he invaded Kuwait. And I interviewed him just a very few hours, really, before the second Gulf War started. And to walk in to the palace in Baghdad, the first time I walked in there alone, no crew, no producers, nothing.
Wow.
And to sit down with a man who was a stone-cold killer, in his environment, an environment he completely commands, again, is a never-to-be-forgotten experience. But I've also interviewed any number of people whose names nobody would know that impressed me greatly, working people, people who were having trouble making ends meet at home but did something heroic. The example would be somebody who saw something happening at his plant saying, you know, we're being forced to produce toxic materials here. It's a danger to the workers. It's a danger to the outside world. It's a story I did, I think, in 1980 about Keep-On, and the courage it took to speak up for people that I knew. Their whole livelihood was in danger. I was impressed with that. I talked once with Mother Teresa.
That must have been amazing.
It was absolutely amazing. And again...
What a moving woman.
And you talk about humbling.
Right.
That, you know, I don't know whether you've been to Calcutta, India,
no, I have
where
not. I have
major
not.
work is centered.
Right.
But I never shall forget of going out early in the morning. It's hard for any American to imagine this, because when we speak of poverty in our context, in our country. But Calcutta has a level of poverty that's unimaginable. But they went out early in the morning, the nuns who worked with her, and they go to the trash heaps, huge trash heaps. And they go through the trash looking for infants who've been thrown away overnight. Oh. And they find them almost every day. They would find some. Some of them survived, some of them didn't, some of them were already dead, but some were alive, and then pick them up and bring them back to Mother Teresa's headquarters there, and they would tend to them. You can't do that without being tremendously humbled by it and saying to yourself, what am I doing with my life? I mean, these people are doing something that matters, that really matters. And here I am, there at the peak of the mountain, and I'm just plowing at the base of the mountain.
The energy that so many people possess that have grandeur, such as our presidents and Mother Teresa, you do feel a tremendous energy coming from them.
Well, it's especially interesting to me when you talk about presidents, that I have interviewed every president since Harry Truman. Wow. Granted, my interview with President Eisenhower wasn't much. It was quick, but I put it on the list.
Absolutely.
But I've never interviewed a president. I've never taken part in that kind of interview that my heart didn't race a bit.
Right.
And that I didn't say to myself, I really earnestly hope and pray I can be at my best today. My best may not be very, very good, but I hope and pray I can be at my best today, because whomever is president, you know, deep within us, we know he's not only the head of government, but he's the head of state. For example, in monarchies such as England, the Queen is head of state, the Prime Minister is head of government, but in our system, the President is head of state and head of government. And without exception, every president has a kind of energy that just flows off of them like there's some nuclear power plant of energy.
I agree.
Because you can't get to that position without possessing that.
I agree. When President Reagan walked on the stage at the second inauguration, when I was fortunate enough to be performing, I literally could feel from 10 feet away the energy coming, and I've had the great pleasure of meeting President Ford as well. I was able to meet him. He lived here, as you know. Yeah. And regardless of what our political persuasion is, we have to say, God bless them. They work so hard. They're there. They're there for us.
And they have such a burden. You mentioned President Ford, whom I had covered in the Congress when he was a congressman. He was a congressman from Michigan for a very long time, and covered him a bit when he was vice president. You know, more than any president I have known, that he changed. The presidency changed him. You know, they say the presidency changes every person who comes into it. But in my experience, never has the change been more abrupt and clearer than with President Ford. He felt the burden. I don't think he ever expected to come into the presidency. No. Suddenly, boom, it was there.
And what he did with it.
What he did with it, he was so smart with it. And whether you're Republican or Democrat, or whether you agree with him ideologically or not, the fact is he came to the presidency after President Nixon had resigned, when the country so badly needed
healing.
It needed healing, and he was smart enough to realize that part of the way he could help heal is to come across as much as possible as every man. He recognized the grandeur of the presidency, recognized the tremendous decisions he had to make. But if you remember, he made a point of having pictures taken of him making the toast for breakfast and that kind of thing. And I think back on it, how smart that was, how wise that was of him to do that.
It's great. When we come back, I want to talk more about the presidency and about what you think about the upcoming election. Stay tuned. I know you will.